The food containers were still warm when Jessica's hands began to shake. Outside, rain struck the mansion windows like a warning she didn't have time to hear. She rechecked the clock. Too late. Always too late. Half the meal stayed on her plate. The rest disappeared into her bag. Careful, precise, desperate. A soft alarm chimed somewhere in the house. Her breath caught. Footsteps. She turned and froze. He stood in the shadows, tall, unmoving, the blue glow of security screens lighting his face. Not angry, worse, curious. "Where do you go every night, Jessica?" Her badge blinked red on the monitor behind him. And in that moment, she knew. If she told the truth, she would lose everything. The night had already decided it wouldn't be quiet. Rain dragged its fingers down the tall glass windows of the estate, slow and deliberate, as if testing for weakness. Somewhere beyond the iron gates, thunder rolled low, distant enough to be ignored but not forgotten. Jessica Rowan felt it anyway. She stood in the service corridor, the polished floor cold through the soles of her shoes, listening to the house breathe. The estate always had a sound at night, a hum. Security systems whispering to themselves, air vents sighing. It was the kind of silence that only existed where too much money lived. Her hands moved on instinct, plate, container, lid. She worked quickly but gently, careful not to let the plastic snap too loudly. Half her dinner vanished into her bag, wrapped in a clean cloth she'd brought from home, still warm, still smelling like rosemary and garlic. Her stomach tightened, not from hunger, but from time. She checked her watch. Late. Again. Jessica exhaled slowly, steadying herself. Panic was useless, panic wasted energy, and energy was something she couldn't afford. She slipped the bag over her shoulder, smoothed the front of her uniform, and turned off the small kitchen light behind her. That was when the estate lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then, a soft, unfamiliar chime echoed through the corridor. Jessica stopped walking. It wasn't loud, it wasn't urgent, just a polite sound, a sound that didn't belong. Her pulse stuttered. Somewhere in the house, a security system recalibrated, doors locked in sequence, cameras rotated just a fraction. The estate is tightening its grip. Jessica lowered her gaze and kept moving. She told herself it was nothing, power surge, rain, old wiring in a house that pretended to be timeless. But the feeling didn't leave. Callum Vale was already awake. He hadn't slept properly in years. Night was when his mind sharpened, when thoughts lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. He sat in his private security room, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, watching the wall of screens glow blue in the darkness. Motion sensor triggered. Sector D, outer perimeter. Callum leaned forward. The footage showed nothing at first. Rain streaks the lens, trees are bending slightly in the wind. Then, movement, a shadow where there shouldn't be one, too deliberate, too slow. His jaw tightened. He tapped the screen, rewound, played it again. No forced entry, no breach, but something had tested the boundary. Someone had wanted to know how far they could go. Callum exhaled through his nose and pulled up the system logs. That's when he noticed it. A pattern. Staff badge. Exit gate. Timestamp. 11:42 p.m. He frowned and scrolled back. The same badge. The same time. Night after night. Always leaving. Never returning until morning. Jessica Rowan. He leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing, not with suspicion, but with something colder, precision, curiosity. The kind that came from noticing things other people missed. He pulled up the footage. Jessica appeared on the screen, small against the vast iron gate. Shoulders slightly hunched, bag heavy at her side, she paused before stepping out, just for a second, like someone bracing against invisible weight. Then she was gone. Callum's gaze stayed fixed on the screen long after she vanished from it. Something about the way she walked unsettled him, not hurried, not careless, measured, like someone rationing strength. He pulled up her employment file. Perfect attendance. No complaints. No disciplinary notes. Invisible. Callum's fingers stilled over the keyboard. "Run a route trace," he said quietly into the room. No alerts, no intervention. The system acknowledged the command. He stared at the empty gate on the screen, the rain blurring everything into gray. For the first time that night, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. Not suspicion, concern. If you've ever had to disappear just to survive, stay with us. Enjoying the story so far? Tell us where you're watching from in the comments and subscribe. The bus smelled like damp coats and old vinyl. Jessica stood near the back, one hand wrapped around the metal pole, the other hooked through the strap of her bag. The food containers inside pressed against her hip, too warm, too heavy. Every bump in the road sent a small ache up her arm. She adjusted her grip, jaw tightening, refusing the wince that tried to surface. Outside, the city slid past in streaks of yellow and gray, closed shops, flickering streetlights, people going home to places where they could rest. She counted the stops without looking. When the bus lurched to a halt, she stepped down carefully, boots splashing into a shallow puddle. The rain had thinned to a mist clinging to her hair, darkening the collar of her uniform. She pulled her coat tighter and started walking. The building waited at the end of the block, old brick, one working light over the door. Jessica took the stairs two at a time, breath already shallow, and unlocked the door with a key that stuck if you didn't jiggle it just right. Inside, the apartment was quiet in the way only exhausted places were. "Jess?" a voice rasped from the bedroom. Not loud, not strong, just present. "I'm here," she said, already moving. Her father lay propped on pillows, chest rising unevenly. The oxygen machine hummed beside him, steady but loud in the small room. She crossed to him and set the food down before he could say anything, adjusting the tray, checking the tubing, smoothing the blanket that had twisted during the day. "You ate?" he asked. She nodded too quickly. "At work." It wasn't exactly a lie. In the kitchen, her sisters sat at the small table, notebooks open, pencils drooping from tired fingers. One of them had fallen asleep mid-sentence, cheek pressed to the paper. Jessica brushed a curl from her forehead and nudged her gently. "Bed," she whispered. After everyone was settled, Jessica finally let herself lean against the counter. She massaged her wrists slowly, pressing her thumbs into the sore spots until the ache dulled. Her hands shook when she stopped. She ignored it. She ate standing up, cold rice, a piece of chicken she hadn't packed away. 3 bites, enough to quiet the hollow feeling, not enough to slow her down. When she finished, she rinsed the container and set it to dry, movements careful, economical. She checked the locks, once, twice. Then she sat at the table, just for a moment, elbows resting on the wood. Her eyes closed, her head dipped forward. The room tilted. She startled awake with a sharp inhale, neck stiff, the clock blinking 1:17 a.m. Her mouth tasted like metal. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and stood, forcing her legs to cooperate. There was still laundry to fold,
medications to set out for the morning, homework to check. No room for sleep. As she moved through the apartment, a strange awareness prickled along her spine. The feeling didn't have words, just pressure, like a hand hovering inches from her back. She paused by the window. The street below was empty. Too empty. The mist curled around the lamppost, turning its light into a dull halo. For a second, she thought she saw something shift near the curb, then nothing. She told herself she was tired. Tired people imagined things. The next morning, the estate felt sharper. Every sound landed harder. Every glance seemed to linger. Jessica kept her eyes down, hands busy, moving from room to room with practiced efficiency. When she reached the supply closet, Marlene was waiting. "You're pushing it," Marlene said quietly, not unkind. Jessica didn't look up. "I'm careful." "I know." Marlene hesitated. "But he's noticed patterns before. You can't give him one." Jessica swallowed. "I'll fix it." Marlene touched her arm briefly, a warning, a kindness, and stepped away. That night, when Jessica stepped off the bus, the air felt wrong. A black car idled across the street, engine running, windows dark. It didn't move when she didn't turn off, just waited. Jessica slowed, heart beginning to pound. The car's headlights stayed off, and she knew, without understanding how, that this was not part of her routine anymore.
Callum did not follow her the way men in movies did. There was no trench coat, no dramatic turns, no reckless proximity. He followed her with data. From a quiet sedan parked far enough away to be forgettable, he watched the small pool of light beneath the street lamp where she always appeared, the same corner, the same time, the same careful walk, shoulders slightly rounded, as if bracing against an invisible wind. She never looked over her shoulder. That was the first thing that unsettled him. Most people did when they felt watched. She moved as if being seen was already a given, something she had learned to live with. He watched her climb the steps to the building, watched the way she paused, just briefly, before unlocking the door. Not hesitation, calculation. He'd seen that pause before, in boardrooms and crisis rooms, in people who carried too much responsibility and too little margin for error. He didn't get closer. He didn't need to. What he saw was enough. The next nights confirmed it. She carried food out of the estate wrapped in cloth, never plastic bags, always packed with care. On the bus, she gave her seat to an older man without hesitation. At the corner store, she paid for a child's candy when the mother came up short, her mouth softening in a way he never saw anywhere else. She never rested. Even standing, she leaned slightly forward, weight balanced, as if she might need to move at any moment. At her building, the lights in her apartment stayed on long after the rest of the block went dark. She never smiled for herself, only for others, brief, borrowed smiles that faded the second she turned away. By the fourth night, Callum told himself he would stop. By the fifth, he didn't. The kitchen was dark, except for the under-cabinet lights, casting long shadows across the marble counters. Callum stood there longer than he meant to, staring at nothing when soft footsteps broke the silence. Jessica froze in the doorway. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She hadn't changed out of her uniform yet. Her hair was pulled back, loose strands escaping at her temples. There was a faint crease between her brows, like she'd been frowning all day and forgotten how to stop. She cleared her throat. "I didn't know anyone was in here." "You're not intruding," Callum said. The words sounded heavier than he intended. She stepped in slowly, keeping a careful distance, eyes fixed on the counter as she reached for a glass. The sound of the faucet was loud in the quiet room, too loud. When she turned it off, the silence rushed back in.
It stretched. Neither of them moved. Callum noticed the faint tremor in her hands as she lifted the glass, the dark circles beneath her eyes, the way she leaned her hip against the counter, just for support, like she didn't trust her legs to hold her. "You're up late," Callum said. "So are you." The answer came too fast. He studied her face, not unkindly, not sharply, just fully. "Do you sleep?" he asked. The question hung between them, intimate in the way it had no right to be. Jessica's throat worked. She took a sip of water, buying time. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "Yes." Callum didn't respond. He watched the lie settle over her like a thin coat, smooth, practiced, insufficient. He'd spent his life listening to people lie with confidence. Hers was different. Not greedy, not defensive, protective. She set the glass down, avoiding his eyes. "If you'll excuse me." As she passed him, the space between them felt charged, electric, like a held breath. Her shoulder brushed the air near his arm, not touching, but close enough to feel. Callum stayed where he was long after she left. He replayed the moment in his mind, the way she'd answered, the way her pulse had jumped in her neck. She was lying, and she was lying for a reason. From the shadows of the kitchen, Callum made a quiet decision. He wouldn't stop watching.
The changes happened quietly. No announcements, no explanations. The next morning, additional security personnel appeared at the gates. New cameras blinked to life along the perimeter, their lenses sweeping in slow, deliberate arcs. Access points required double verification now. The estate felt tighter, more alert, like a body bracing for impact. Jessica noticed immediately. She always did. The whispers started by lunchtime. "Did you hear about the attempted breach? Vale barely slept that night. They say he's watching everything himself." Jessica kept her head down, fingers busy, but the air felt different, heavy, charged, like silence that pressed against the skin instead of passing through it. She told herself it wasn't about her, but when she stepped outside that evening, 2 guards followed her path with their eyes until she disappeared around the corner. The gate stayed open an extra second before closing behind her. "Callum's doing," she thought, and the realization sent a shiver through her. Callum told himself the upgrades were necessary, rational, proportional. The break-in attempt had rattled something old in him, something he'd thought he'd buried with years of reinforced steel and digital walls. Protection wasn't just about locks, it was about anticipation, about seeing threats before they took shape. And Jessica had become part of the shape. He found himself tracking her movements unconsciously now, not through screens, through awareness. He knew when she entered a room before she spoke, knew the rhythm of her steps in the hall, knew when she was tired by the way she slowed just slightly, like a dimmer turning down. One afternoon, the lights flickered. Once, twice, a minor power recalibration, the kind that meant nothing. Jessica flinched anyway. It was subtle, barely there, but Callum saw it. Her shoulders tightened, her hand went to her chest, fingers brushing the thin chain she wore beneath her uniform. When she lowered her hand, the chain snapped free. The necklace hit the floor with a soft metallic sound. Jessica froze. She crouched quickly, fingers fumbling as she reached for it. The chain had snapped, one clean break. The small charm at the center, worn smooth from years of touch, rolled toward the wall. Callum was there before he realized he'd moved. "It broke," she said quietly, as if apologizing. He picked up the charm, turning it between his fingers. It was simple, inexpensive, important. "He can fix it," he said. She shook her head, taking it from him. It was already weak. The rain started outside, sudden and loud, drumming against the windows like punctuation. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The flickering lights steadied, but something between them didn't. Jessica's hands were shaking, not from the cold,
not from the rain. Callum's gaze dropped to them, then back to her face. He saw the effort it took for her to stay composed, the tension in her jaw, the careful way she held herself upright, as if leaning would cause everything to collapse. Without thinking, he reached out. His fingers hovered inches from her wrist, close enough to feel the warmth of her skin, close enough to change something neither of them had named. "Mr. Vale," the voice cut through the moment. Marlene stood in the doorway, eyes flicking between them, understanding passing silently over her face. "There's a call for you." Callum lowered his hand slowly. The space between him and Jessica felt suddenly vast. That night, the rain followed her home. Jessica took the stairs 2 at a time, heart racing, the broken necklace clutched in her fist like a warning. The hallway lights flickered as she unlocked the door. Inside, the apartment was too quiet. "Dad?" she called. No answer. She dropped her bag and rushed to the bedroom. Her father lay on the floor beside the bed, oxygen mask askew, chest heaving in shallow, panicked breaths. One hand clawed weakly at the carpet. Jessica dropped to her knees, hands shaking harder now as she reached for him. "Dad, Dad, stay with me." Outside, thunder cracked, and somewhere across the city, a man who had been watching too closely felt something break.
The estate moved like clockwork in the mornings. Doors opened on schedule, coffee is brewed at the same time, footsteps followed familiar paths. Jessica usually fit into that rhythm perfectly, quiet, precise, unnoticed. That morning, she didn't. The hallway felt longer than usual, the light too bright. Her vision pulsed at the edges, narrowing and widening with each step. She told herself to breathe slower, deeper, in through the nose, out through the mouth. It didn't help. Her hands were cold despite the warmth of the house. She scrubbed at a marble surface that was already clean, the cloth slipping in her grip. The world tilted slightly, then corrected itself. She swallowed hard. "Just finish this room," she told herself. "Then you can sit." She never made it to the chair. The floor rushed up without warning. One moment she was standing, the next her knees buckled, strength draining from her body like someone had pulled a plug. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. "Jessica." Callum's voice sounded far away, distorted like it was coming through water. He lowered her carefully, one hand braced behind her shoulders, the other gripping her arm. Her skin felt wrong beneath his fingers, too cold, too light. Her lashes were wet. He hadn't noticed when she'd started crying. "Stay with me," he said, sharper now. "Jessica." Her chest rose in quick, shallow breaths. Each one looked like effort. Her head lolled slightly, dark hair slipping free from its tie. Her lips trembled. I forgot." "What did you forget?" Callum asked, leaning closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. "Food," she whispered. "For him, I forgot his food." The words broke something open. Her eyes fluttered, unfocused, searching for something that wasn't there. "Dad," she murmured, panic bleeding into the sound. "Dad, I'm sorry, I was late." Callum's grip tightened instinctively. "Get a car," he ordered into the room, not looking away from her. "Now!" The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Jessica lay still on the bed, skin pale against the white sheets, monitors blinking and chiming around her. Callum stood at her side, jacket forgotten, sleeves still rolled up, watching every rise and fall of her chest like it was a fragile contract. Cold fingers, wet lashes, the image wouldn't leave him. A nurse adjusted the IV and moved away. The room quieted except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. Callum exhaled slowly, forcing his shoulders to drop. Then the sound changed. The beeping slowed, stuttered, flatlined. The line on the screen went straight. Callum's breath stopped. "Hey!" He stepped closer, hand hovering uselessly over her arm. "Hey! No!"
Voices filled the room, shoes squeaked, someone called out numbers, hands moved her, efficient and fast, pressing, adjusting, working. Seconds stretched thin, then a sharp beep. The line jumped. Her heart caught, then resumed its rhythm, shaky, but there. Callum backed up a step, chest tight, jaw clenched hard enough to ache. He hadn't realized how close he'd been standing until space rushed in between him and the bed. The doctor spoke, words calm, professional. Exhaustion, severe, dehydration. Callum didn't hear the rest. He looked at Jessica's face, relaxed now in unconsciousness, lines of strain softened, and understood something with brutal clarity. She hadn't been disappearing. She had been emptying herself out, night after night, meal after meal, breath after breath, for everyone but herself. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Hours later, when the room was quiet again, Callum sat in the chair beside her bed. He didn't touch her, didn't speak. He just stayed, watching the slow, fragile movement of her chest, the steady blink of the monitor. When her fingers twitched faintly, relief hit him like a blow. He leaned forward, voice low. "You don't have to do this alone." She didn't hear him, but he meant it anyway. Have you ever carried too much alone?
Callum told himself he needed facts. That was the lie he chose. He sat alone in his office long after midnight, the city spread out beneath the windows like a map of lights he no longer felt connected to. Jessica's hospital bracelet lay on his desk, forgotten there after he'd removed it gently from her wrist before she slept. The plastic was warm from her skin. He stared at it, jaw tight. Facts, he insisted. Context, preparation, protection. He made the calls himself, quiet ones, the kind that didn't leave trails, names, addresses, medical histories, financial gaps. The story of Jessica Rowan unfolded on his screen in fragments and timestamps. A sick father, long-term respiratory failure, missed work records from years ago, 2 younger sisters, school reports flagged for exhaustion, not neglect, utility shutoff notices narrowly avoided. It explained everything. It didn't excuse what he was doing. When Jessica woke, she knew something had shifted before he said a word. He stood at the foot of her hospital bed, posture controlled, eyes too sharp, not worried, prepared. "You should take time off," he said. "Your family needs support. I can arrange." Her fingers curled into the sheets. "How do you know about my family?" The silence that followed was heavy. Callum didn't answer fast enough. Understanding dawned slowly on her face, then all at once. Her breathing changed, shallower, faster. She pulled the blanket closer around herself, like fabric could shield her from what he'd done. "You looked," she said. It wasn't a question. He met her gaze. "I needed to know what I was dealing with." Her laugh came out sharp, broken. "Dealing with?" "You collapsed," he said, voice firm, almost cold. "There was a threat on my property. I had to be sure." "You had no right." Her voice shook now, anger threading through fear. "You went into my life without asking. You watched me. You followed me. And now you think you can fix it?" The word fix burned between them. Callum stepped closer. "I'm trying to keep you safe." Her eyes flashed. "From who? You?" The question landed harder than any accusation. She turned her face away, shoulders trembling. Trust drained from her posture, leaving something brittle and sharp behind. The space between them felt dangerous now, not charged, but hostile. "I can't stay," she said quietly. "Not here, not after this." Before he could respond, Marlene appeared in the doorway, expression tight. "Mr. Vale, security found something." The tablet showed grainy footage from the night of the break-in attempt, a face half hidden,
familiar in the wrong way. Jessica's breath caught. She recognized him immediately. A man from years ago, a man who knew her before she learned how to disappear. The threat was no longer abstract. "He's been asking questions," Marlene added, "about you." Fear hollowed Jessica's chest. This was what she'd been running from, what she'd thought distance and silence could bury. Callum's jaw set. "He won't get near you." She shook her head, already pulling herself upright, ignoring the dizziness. "You don't get to decide that." She swung her legs over the side of the bed, movements jerky but determined. Callum reached out instinctively, then stopped himself. Her eyes met his, hard now, guarded. "I quit," she said, effective immediately. The words fell between them like a severed line. Jessica stood, swaying slightly, but she didn't fall. She walked out of the room without looking back. And Callum realized, too late, that in crossing one line, he'd pushed her straight into another kind of danger. Jessica didn't go back to the estate. She went home. The apartment door closed behind her with a finality that made her chest ache. She leaned her forehead against the wood for a moment, breathing through the dizziness, then straightened. There was no time to fall apart. There never was. Her father slept fitfully, breaths rattling low in his chest. One of her sisters lay curled on the couch, homework still open, pencil clutched in her hand. Jessica covered her with a blanket, hands gentle despite the tremor running through them. The knock came just after midnight. 3 sharp raps. Not a neighbor, not a mistake. Her pulse spiked. She moved quietly, peering through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Another knock, louder. She opened the door a crack, and the world exploded. A hand shoved it wider, a body lunged forward. "Get away from her!" The voice was Callum's. He slammed into the man in the doorway, driving him back with controlled force, shoulder to chest, sending both of them crashing into the opposite wall. The impact rattled the picture frames. Jessica screamed, scrambling backward as the men grappled, shadows colliding in the narrow hall. The intruder swung wildly. Callum ducked, grabbed his wrist, twisted hard. There was a sharp cry. Something clattered to the floor. A knife. "Call the police!" Callum barked without looking at her. Jessica's hands shook as she fumbled for her phone, dialing blindly. Her vision blurred as adrenaline surged through her, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The man tore free and bolted down the stairs. Sirens wailed in the distance, too far, too slow. Silence rushed back in, heavy and unreal. Callum turned to her, chest rising fast, knuckles scraped, jaw tight. For a moment he just stared at her, like he needed to confirm she was still standing. "You shouldn't be here," she said hoarsely. "You shouldn't even know where I live." "I do," he said, voice rough, "because I couldn't stop watching you." The words hit her harder than the attack. She sagged against the wall, breath breaking free in a sob she'd been holding for years. Her knees gave out. Callum caught her again. This time she didn't fight it. "I tried," she cried, fingers curling into his shirt. "I tried to keep them safe. I tried to stay invisible." He held her like she might shatter, one hand firm at her back, the other cradling her head. "You shouldn't have had to do it alone." For a moment, the world narrowed to the sound of her breathing and the distant wail of sirens drawing closer. Then a crash sounded from the bedroom. Jessica tore free. "No!" She ran down the hall, Callum close behind. The bedroom door hung open, window shattered inward. Cold air rushed through the room, curtains billowing. Her father's bed was empty. The oxygen machine lay on its side, hissing softly. Jessica's scream ripped through the apartment, raw and helpless. Callum stood frozen behind her as the truth settled in. Watching her had a cost. and it had just been paid. If your heart just dropped, don't leave now.
Rain came down hard, unforgiving, turning the city into a blur of light and shadow. Jessica stood in the middle of it, soaked through, fists clenched at her sides as Callum spoke into his phone with clipped, controlled fury. Police, private security, every connection he had was being pulled tight at once. Sirens screamed somewhere nearby, overlapping, chaotic. She wasn't listening. Her father was gone. "You knew," she said suddenly, voice sharp enough to cut through the rain. "You knew someone was coming for me and you didn't tell me." Callum turned toward her. Water streaked down his face, darkening his hair, soaking the collar of his coat. "I didn't know it would be tonight." "But you knew," she repeated, stepping closer. "You always know." The words landed like an accusation and a plea all at once. "I was trying to protect you," he said. "I've done this before. I've seen what happens when people panic." Her laugh was broken, almost hysterical. "Protect me? You followed me. You watched me. You decided what I deserved to know." The rain swallowed the silence that followed. Callum dragged a hand through his hair, control finally cracking. "I failed someone once," he said, the words coming out rough, unpolished. "I had the power to stop it, and I hesitated. I told myself I needed more information, more certainty. By the time I acted, it was too late." Jessica's breath hitched. "He died," Callum continued, "because I waited." She stared at him, chest tight, understanding dawning in pieces. "So you turned me into a project." "No," he snapped. "I turned you into a responsibility." "And took my choice," she shot back. "I survive by controlling what little I have. You don't get to take that from me." Thunder cracked overhead. A call came through on Callum's phone. He listened, eyes hardening. "We have a location." They moved him to an abandoned clinic off Riverside. Jessica didn't hesitate. "We're going." "It's dangerous." "So is standing here." They drove through the storm like they were chasing something already slipping away. The city thinned, buildings decaying into skeletal silhouettes. The clinic loomed ahead, windows dark, doors hanging crooked. Callum killed the engine. "Stay close." Inside, the air smelled like mold and rust. Their footsteps echoed too loudly. Somewhere deeper in the building, voices murmured. A chair scraped. Jessica's heart hammered so hard she thought it might give her away. A shadow moved. Callum stepped forward first. There was shouting, a scuffle, the sound of something hitting concrete. Jessica saw just enough, Callum's shoulder slamming into a man, a fist raised, a body going down, violence implied more than shown, enough to make her stomach twist. Then she saw her father, strapped to a chair, pale, alive. "Dad!" she sobbed, rushing to him, hands shaking as she fumbled with the restraints. "I'm here! I'm here!" Callum stood guard until the last second, eyes scanning, body taut, then turned away as she clung to her father, pressing her forehead to his. They got out before the police arrived. The rain had slowed to a steady fall by the time they reached the car. Jessica sat in the back seat, her father's head resting against her shoulder, his breathing weak but steady. Callum drove in silence. When the hospital lights finally swallowed them, relief should have followed. It didn't. In the hallway, under harsh fluorescent lights, Jessica faced Callum again. Everything felt stripped bare now, no shadows, no excuses. "You saved him," she said quietly. "Yes. But you still crossed a line." "I know." She wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. "I don't know how to trust you after this." The admission hurt more than anger ever could. Callum didn't reach for her, didn't try to fix it. "I'll wait, if you ever let me." Jessica looked at him, this man who had watched her, broken for her, fought for her, and realized the truth was heavier than either of them was ready for.
They had survived the night, but something between them had fractured, and it wasn't done breaking.
Morning arrived without drama. No sirens, no shouting. Just a pale wash of light seeping through the hospital blinds, softening the edges of everything it touched. Jessica sat in the chair beside her father's bed, fingers wrapped around a paper cup gone lukewarm hours ago. He slept. Really slept. The oxygen machine hummed steadily, no longer frantic, no longer fighting. Each rise of his chest loosened something tight and painful inside her. Across the room, Callum stood by the window, jacket draped over the back of a chair, sleeves rolled up. He hadn't left. She noticed that without looking at him. She noticed the absence of his movements more than the presence. Silence stretched between them, but this time it didn't press down. A nurse passed by. The world kept going. Callum broke the quiet by holding out a cup of tea, steam curled into the air, faintly herbal. "You should drink," he said. Jessica accepted it, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact was light, careful. It carried no demand. She took a sip, warmth spread through her chest, grounding. "Thank you." They stood there together, shoulders not quite touching, watching the slow rhythm of her father's breathing. Callum shifted slightly, angling himself between her and the door without comment. The gesture was instinctive, protective, but restrained. "I can help," he said quietly, "with care, with security, with time." She tensed. He noticed immediately. "Not control," he added, "not decisions, just support, if you want it." Jessica stared into the tea, watching the surface tremble with her pulse. She thought of sleepless nights, of counting pills, of carrying too much alone because it felt safer than trusting anyone else. "I don't want to owe you," she said. "You won't," he replied. "This isn't a transaction." Their eyes met then. No shadows, no screens, just two people stripped down by the same night. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. Later, when her father was settled and the doctors assured them he would be monitored, Callum drove them back to the estate. The gates opened silently, the house waiting in the early morning light. Jessica hesitated at the door. "Just for tonight," she said, more to herself than to him. He nodded. "Of course." In the guest room, she sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion finally catching up. Callum lingered in the doorway, uncertain. "Good night," he said. "Good night." He turned to leave, then paused. Jessica reached out, fingers catching the edge of his sleeve. The touch was brief, grounding. "Thank you," she whispered. Something warm and unguarded passed across his face before he stepped away. She lay back, staring at the ceiling, the house quiet around her. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she had to run. The estate looked peaceful in daylight. Sunlight spilled across the manicured lawns, catching on dew like scattered glass. Birds moved freely between hedges that hid cameras and sensors beneath their leaves. From a distance, it was flawless, untouched, safe. Callum knew better now. He stood alone in the security room, jacket back on, coffee gone cold in his hand. The wall of monitors reflected faintly in his eyes as footage replayed in silence. Not the break-in from weeks ago, not the night Jessica collapsed. Something older, something overlooked. He slowed the feed, paused, rewound. There, just before the perimeter alarm tripped the first time, a service corridor camera, low resolution, late hour, a staff member entering a restricted access panel. Not forcing it, opening it. Callum leaned forward. The badge scanned green. Authorized. His jaw tightened. He pulled the frame forward inch by inch, isolating the moment. The figure wore a standard uniform, head lowered, face partially obscured, but the posture was wrong. Too relaxed, too certain. Someone who belonged. Someone who knew the camera's blind spots. Callum felt the weight settle in his chest. Not fear, but recognition. the kind that came when a problem revealed its true shape. The danger had never been about intrusion, it had been about access. Jessica woke slowly, the kind of waking that didn't hurt. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Soft sheets, quiet air, light filtering through curtains she hadn't chosen. Her body ached, but it wasn't the sharp, punishing ache of exhaustion. It was dull, manageable. She sat up, heart steadying as memory returned. The night, the rain. Her father is breathing. She stood and crossed to the window, pulling the curtain aside. The estate lay calm beneath the sun. She should have felt relieved. Instead, a faint unease brushed her skin. Downstairs, Marlene was in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug, eyes tired but alert. "He's been in there all morning," Marlene said quietly, nodding toward the security wing. Jessica nodded. "Did something happen?" Marlene hesitated, just long enough. "I don't think everything that did is finished." Callum finally moved. He isolated another feed, a different angle, a clearer shot. The figure paused beneath a corridor light this time, just long enough for the camera to catch the side of a face, not enough to identify fully, enough to confirm intent. Deliberate. Callum exhaled slowly and straightened, the room suddenly feeling too small. He understood now why the breach had felt wrong, why his systems, perfect on paper, had failed. Trust had been the vulnerability. He turned as the door opened behind him. Jessica stood there, barefoot, wearing borrowed clothes that still didn't look like they belonged to her. Her presence shifted the air immediately. "You're quiet," she said. "So are you," he replied. She stepped closer, eyes flicking to the screens. "What did you find?" Callum didn't soften the truth. Someone inside the estate helped them. The words landed between them, heavy and final. Jessica's stomach dropped. Images flashed through her mind, faces she passed daily, hands that offered polite smiles, voices that blended into routine. "Who?" she asked. "I don't know yet, but I will." She studied his face, searching for reassurance, control, certainty. What she found instead was something steadier, resolve, the kind forged by failure and consequence. "This won't stop," she said quietly. "No," he agreed, "it won't." Silence settled again, but this time it was watchful. Jessica wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the old instinct stir, the urge to disappear, to move before things could reach her. Callum noticed. He always did. "You can stay, or you can go. I won't stop you." She met his gaze. The choice mattered more than the words. "I'm tired of running," she said. His expression didn't change, but something behind it did. Outside, the estate gates stood open for the morning shift. Staff arrived, smiles exchanged, life resumed its careful choreography. And beneath it all, something waited. Because the truth had finally surfaced. The danger wasn't outside the gates.